Good evening, everyone. So Zelensky is meeting with, so President Zelensky is meeting with the British Prime Minister at number 10 Downing Street to drum up more support for the war. Guys, what else, literally, what else can we give him? 3 billion a year, an extra 600 million that David Lammy, gave him off the cuff. Literally the only thing that we have in abundance in the United Kingdom at the moment is like migrants or something. I mean, does he want, do they want to go over and fight for the Ukrainians? Guys, this is, there's a lot of people being critical of this situation at the moment, but if we understand that this is just part of a process that's happening and it's going to happen regardless, you kind of see, you can kind of put yourself in those people's shoes and understand why these things are happening. Remember, a lot of this is pomp, a lot of this is pageantry. They already know the outcome. They already know what's happening. Potentially not Starmer, whoever's above him, and potentially not Zelensky, whoever's above him. But what normally happens historically when these meetings take place, the meetings will take place, and then a couple of weeks after, there'll be a huge escalation. So I think behind closed doors, right? In fact, guys, I can pretty much give you with 100% certainty that behind closed doors, they're talking about long-range missile strikes into Russia. Now, not only will they be talking about that, but they'll be, obviously it's not just Zelensky going on his own. He's not just turned up on a C-130 or whatever from Poland. He'll be there with an entourage. That entourage, he will have, his people there. And behind the scenes, there'll have been a lot of talk and a lot of chatter already. So these things will have already been agreed. And when Zelensky's coming over, that will just be, a thumbs up. What we said about the corridors of power, there'll be a lot of people. When Zelensky and I can't even remember the British Prime Minister's name, Keir Starmer, when these guys are having the meeting and they're shaking hands and everybody's taking photographs, behind them, behind closed doors in the corridors, that's where all the consultants are meeting. That's when where the real work is happening. Trust me, guys, I know this happens. So in those corridors, that's what, the corridors of power, in those corridors, they will be discussing all these things. And what I would suspect is happening, they will be identifying target packs whereby, Britain, well, let's just go to the article and then we'll tell you what it means. Zelensky meets Starmer as he seeks more support for the war. I mean, I really don't know at this point, like without full military, intervention and boots on the ground, I financially, like, we keep getting told we're broken and we don't have any money and there's a 22 billion pound black hole. So if things are that bad in the United Kingdom, where's this money going to come from? Because if they print money, guess who's going to pay for it? You, me, everyone. Inflation's the worst. Inflation is a tax on everybody. Not only is it a tax on everybody, but it's a tax that once it's paid off, it continues to be there. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has held talks with Vladimir Zelensky in Downing Street as the Ukrainian president seeks to shore up European support for his country's war effort. Right, there's a lot of people on social media being really negative about Zelensky, and of course, everybody's free to their opinions. What I would say is, this is a guy who's trying to lead a country through a war, and if you've seen, it's very difficult. If you've been there firsthand and you've seen the devastation that this leaves, you've seen the war and the trail of carnage. Everybody has to do what they have to do, and we shouldn't really be critical. And well, you can be critical, but just don't be rude. Don't be rude about people, because there's a big difference. Unless it's about the Keir Starmer and his freebies. No, I'm joking, guys. Don't be rude about anybody. Yeah, so here the main important bit is here, guys. Mark Rutte, the new head of NATO military alliance, also attended the Downing Street meeting to take part with Zelensky. So what this means basically now is you've got the head of NATO and, the head of NATO, the leading military in Europe, all in one room, all discussing the same scenarios. So what I would think, additionally to what we've just said, is also happening, I would think, and I would think it's a fair suspicion to say that they're talking about how they're going to continue the war effort without the US support. I'd say this is in line with what we spoke about earlier. I think in this morning's video when we talked about the European Bank and how they're trying to Trump-proof Europe and Trump-proof NATO. Guys, if and when Donald Trump wins the US election, he's going to pull funding from this Russian-Ukrainian conflict. That's all he can do. He can't make a peace deal. You know, it doesn't matter what he says. He'll come out and he'll say something like, you know, you guys have got to have peace and you can't come to an agreement or whatever, and he will pull that funding. There's nothing else he can do. I don't know what deal he, I would, if I was in America right now, I would be, and I was a citizen, I would be voting for Donald Trump. There's not that much he can do. And when you understand the human condition is not something that we can turn off. I got given a book earlier on today. In fact, it's just there. So I got given guys, this is it. It's a fantastic book. The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization. It really is fantastic. Now, the opening paragraph, it made me choke, guys, when I was reading it. I'll just read you the first bit because it really is powerful. And it kind of encapsulates and articulates perfect the human condition. For all the good and the bad, it is all encapsulated in this paragraph. The story of humans is a story of discovery. No matter which planet, which timeline, in whichever branch of the multiverse you might find people, they'll be busy improving their lives. We do that as a civilization. We always want more. We always want to improve our situation. Zelensky has to try and improve his situation because he's human. This is our greatest gift and our curse. It's our greatest gift because we're never happy with what we've got. We always want more. We always want to push harder. We are, we're apex predators. We're explorers, engineers, pioneers. We push the boundaries at every chance we get. And that's why we're top of the food chain. If this didn't happen, we'd still be foraging around for nuts and berries. Depending on which way you look at it, we can never stop and be satisfied with what we have achieved. We'll keep sprinting faster, getting stronger and growing bigger until we fall. And that's what's going to happen, guys. We've got front row tickets right now and we're watching this situation unfolding. I should probably do a video on that on its own. We're watching this all unfold in front of us. And people don't understand that these wars can't be avoided. As much as people pretend that they can be, this is the human condition. We push, we drive to succeed. We want to do better. We're never satisfied. And if you understand the human condition, you'll understand that these conflicts, they're an inevitability. So anyway, so Donald Trump, he's going to pull the funding. We've had a lot of talk from NATO. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to Trump-proof, the EU. The EU are going to find a load of money. They've given a load of money to Ukraine already from frozen assets from Russian oligarchs. Can you just imagine that conceptualized? That is like Robin Hood stuff, just robbing from, it's literally Robin Hood stuff. I'm going to rob from the sheriff and pay the peasants to go and fight the sheriff. It's absolutely insane. So all these things, they're not going anywhere good. But the main thing here is you've got all these key players now under one roof, all these key players. And it's not just the political faces, it's the entourage that comes behind them, because they're the guys right now who'll be in those corridors, who'll be talking to each other, who'll be having a beer, they'll be going out for lunch. They're the people who deal with this. And, your prime ministers, your presidents, your foreign secretaries, although they are in charge and they have to sign off on everything, ultimately, a lot of this work is already done behind the scenes. So what I would say is going to happen now, I'll say after this meeting, Zelensky, I think he's going to go to France and then potentially Spain. Let me just check if I can see where it is. I can't see it on there. I think it is. I think he's going to go to France and then he's going to go to Spain. I think it may not be Spain, but anyway, he's going to go. He's going to go off and he's going to try and find more support for the war. So what you'll find is when he gets back to Ukraine, that's going to be it then. There's going to be, you know, historically, because this is what happens, there'll have been things said, he'll have had the thumbs up to go and do something. So he'll go back, you know, and he'll potentially have a list of targets he can strike inside Russia that will be, you know, targets that have been identified by Britain, identified by NATO, part of these target packs that NATO want taken out, and they can use their Ukrainians to do that. Remember, if everybody knows that Donald Trump's going to pull out, you know, of the, you know, of funding this Ukrainian war, then what's the point in holding back with these long-range weapons? It doesn't really matter anymore. But the problem is, Vladimir Putin has now backed himself into a corner whereby he has to react if this happens, because he's already said that, you know, that this has to happen. What did he say? He said that he would attack a NATO country if the NATO, basically he's saying he would attack a NATO country if a NATO country is supplying arms to basically he says he'll strike a NATO country. So this all came out in the Russian nuclear doctrine that was changed. Kind of doesn't really matter at this point, because all roads are heading to this conflict, and this conflict is going to be a conflict of, you know, of an industrial scale, and we really are just sleepwalking into it. I don't know how many more of these rounds, how many more of these iterations of pomp and pageantry we go for just before everybody just starts throwing the big boys about. Anyway, guys, I am going to leave it there. I'm going to max the grid. I'll get you guys another video later.